What's up, guys? This is my new YouTube channel. I think I'm gonna do like like effects I like and interesting sound design stuff on here. I have music out. It's under the name Summit Krang. Kind of weird. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check that out. But basically, today I'm gonna be showing you this technique I use to make ambient music in FL Studio that you can use in any DAW because it's pretty simple. But I have a device in Patcher, which is a FL Studio plugin that you can download and use on your project. And I mean, it has a variety of purposes, but I mainly use it for ambient music because it adds kind of like a really big effect, especially with reverb. Anyway, so what we're gonna be making, or what I'm gonna be making today, is this ambient track. Basically, what I have here is I have a violin from Spitfire Labs. It sounds like this. It's super quiet. I have the volume turned all the way up here. It's at 400% and it's still super quiet. But the device that I built is just a bunch of compressors, 30 exactly, all hooked up to one interface. So all the knobs here, they control the same knobs that you would find on one of the 30 compressors. So you can control them all at once. And basically what it does, compared to a normal compressor, is it just amplifies everything. So a really quiet sound becomes super loud, and a super loud sound just becomes like the same volume as a really quiet sound. So it gives everything like an interesting effect, and there's a lot of like kind of sounds you can get with it when you mess with its settings. I would recommend trying that out, but I'll go into detail later. And then I also have 3 other effects on this channel here. I have a pitch wobble. All of these plugins are free, by the way. From Chow Tape Model, I just turned the depth all the way up and the rate almost all the way down. And then I have a reverb here from Valhalla Supermassive. It's my favorite free reverb. You can get some like really nice and big reverbs. This one's not like super huge, but I just turned the feedback all the way up, warp all the way up, and density all the way up. I'd recommend doing that. And then keeping the mix at like 50. And then the delay, you can, it depends on what kind of sound you want, but I just chose 200 because that's like a standard like reverb size. And then what the feedback being all the way up does is it basically just never like tails out. But with the compressor, or the super compressor that I made, what you get is kind of like it just amplifies that tail. And so you hear everything on top of each other. It's kind of hard to explain, but when I play it, you'll get what I mean. And then I have the spectral gate plugin here. This is like one of the weirder ones I have on here. Obviously, you don't have to add this, but I just like the sound it gives. Basically, what it does, not to go into too much detail here, but it kind of just gives everything like a low quality sound. And you can, choose how much you want. And like the mix, this is basically just the mix. And what I do is I have the mix here around like 50%, and then the cutoff amplitude, not super low, because or high, because if it's too high, then you don't really know what you're hearing. And so yeah, this is what it sounds like. This is the thing I made without the plugins. Sounds good, but not super interesting, kind of quiet. I will warn you though, if you have this plugin on, you should make sure to keep your volume down at first, because if you don't have anything playing, it likes to make really, really loud noises, especially with the reverb. So I'm going to turn it on without the reverb. This is what it sounds like, just like nothing usually, but if you turn on a reverb, it'll start making a really loud noise. I'll play an example. Alright, here's what it sounds like. Obviously, one thing you'll notice about that at first is it's super distorted. And the reason for that is I just have the attack and the release all the way down. And with the attack and the release, these are the two parameters that have the biggest difference on the sound of the super compressor. The threshold is important because it's basically the only knob here that works as a volume knob, which seems kind of counterintuitive. Like the gain, you think gain works as volume knob, and with a regular compressor, that's kind of how it is. But here, the gain has, you don't have too little control over it. So the threshold is like a knob that you can actually use as volume. Here, I'll play. So it just has a nice control over the overall volume. Ratio, not a super huge effect. You know, if you know how an actual compressor works, then it kind of just makes things more compressed. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but basically just like it works the compressor harder. And when you have 30 compressors, you don't really notice a difference, so I wouldn't really mess with that too much. Type, again, doesn't really have a huge effect on it, but as I said earlier, attack and release are the two ones that, you know, have a big effect. I'd say there's 4 kind of sounds you can get with this. The first one I played for you which is when you have both, you know, like the attack and the release all the way down. But, you know, you can do all 4 combinations of attack and release down, attack up, and release down, attack up, release up, and attack down, release up. And it doesn't really matter how much you have it up. I think past a certain point you kind of get the same sound. But if you want it super distorted, you can have both down. If you want a clean sound, you just turn them both up. If you want kind of like a crackle like this, just like a really small crackle here, you turn the attack down. And then if you want like a weird kind of crackle, you turn the release down. This kind of gives it like, you know, like a super transient-y sound. But yeah. And then you can download this in the description for free. Obviously, it's just a bunch of compressors. I'll go into how I made it right now. So there's 3 patchers. They're all the same. The only reason I'm using a patcher within a patcher here is because I just wanted to make it cleaner, and also I made each device on its own, and then I realized I could combine them. And I found that once you add like about 30 compressors, you kind of don't get a difference. Like I've tried hundreds and really it just sounds the same. But each one of these compressors, they have 6 knobs that they're the exact same as the knobs I showed earlier. I just link all those knobs up to knobs on the surface, and then I link all of those knobs up for each of these to these knobs. And then yeah, you can control all 30 at once, and pretty cool. I've noticed that you can use it a lot for like ambient music, get like nice big pads, and yeah, I made a track with it. It's called Compressor, fittingly. I'll put the link in the description as well as my other music. You can go check it out. And thank you for watching. I'll play the full thing in a second, and then you can judge what you think.